Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi, good afternoon, Liam.
Hi, Lani. How are you?
Yes, good. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So, do we need to run any tests for the setup, or everything's looking good?
Pardon?
Do we need to run through any tests? I'm assuming you can hear me okay, and should be fine to go ahead at 2 o'clock.
Lion, I think I can hear you very clear.
Excellent.
Excellent, excellent. But I think with 2 o'clock, Rani, have you shared the rundown already?
Yeah.
Actually, your time will be around 2:10 or 2:15, if I'm not mistaken, because there is one speaker from our side beside me.
Okay. Yes. No, that's fine. Of course. Yeah. No problem. I think just waiting for Nick to join from our side as well, so he should be joining very soon.
Rani,
Iya, Pak.
when the time is coming, I need to, what is it, share screen.
Oh,
Share
okay.
my screen. So after you introduce yourself, please, quit your screen, and then
Yeah.
I can, and
Okay.
then I can only be able to do the screen sharing.
Okay, I get, Pak.
Hello, Nick.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. So you are in London? You're based in London? Based in London?
That's correct. Yes, I'm based down here in sunny London. Nice early morning for us. So yeah, looking forward to delivering this to you guys. How about yourself?
Pardon me, Nick. Where do you stay? Where do you based in London?
Right. Yeah, so that's right. I live in London.
You live in
live
London.
and work in London.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
What time is it now in London?
It's 7:50 a.m. So nice and early in the morning for us. But yeah, it's good to be on with you guys. Whereabouts is it that you're based? Are you in Indonesia?
AM, yeah? Oh, it's 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. actually.
2 p.m.
2 p.m. Yeah. In Singapore, Liam is 3 p.m., right, Liam?
Yes, that's right. Yes, sorry, just trying to find
Yeah.
No problem. I'm assuming that you can hear me okay. I'm sounding nice and clear. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's clear.
Perfect.
Your voice is
perfect.
Clear. Hi, Liam and Nick.
Joe?
Yeah, the first two speaker will be speaking in Bahasa, but then after that, Lani will introduce and or give a comment to you to speak in English.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Brilliant.
The question and answer will, I think will be in Bahasa as well. But if there is any question to you, either we will type in the chat or translate it to you, or if the time is not permit, then we email it to you so you can write it back and we can send the answer by email to the audience.
That
Okay,
sounds great.
excellent.
Yeah, because we limit the time only 1.5 hour maximum with the question and answer.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Selamat siang kepada Bapak dan Ibu. Terima kasih sudah meluangkan waktu untuk bergabung dalam event webinar yang bertema Enterprise Architecture with Abacus Avolution. Perkenalkan, saya Lani Cahyaningrum, Account Manager di PT Smart Pro Solusi Asia, yang dalam kesempatan hari ini saya menggantikan sebagai Bapak Riko Sugiono yang saat ini sedang berhalangan untuk hadir. Sebelum kita mulai event di siang hari ini, saya akan memperkenalkan narasumber yang tentunya sudah expert dalam bidangnya. Yang pertama, ada Bapak Fajar Hidayat, selaku CEO PT Smart Pro Solusi Asia, yang nantinya akan mengenalkan company profile. Halo Pak, selamat siang Pak.
Selamat siang Lani. Selamat siang Bapak Ibu semua.
Baik, terima kasih Pak. Lalu yang kedua ada Bapak Argo Galih sebagai Enterprise Architecture Senior Consultant di PT Smart Pro. Namun, dalam kesempatan kali ini, beliau berhalangan untuk menghadiri dan akan digantikan oleh Bapak Irwansyah sebagai Enterprise Architecture Senior Consultant. Selamat siang Pak Irfan.
Selamat siang Ibu Lani. Selamat siang semuanya.
Terima kasih Pak Irfan. Lalu yang ketiga, narasumber berikutnya dari Abacus Avolution, yaitu Liam and Nick Stephen. Hi Liam and Nick, are you there?
Yes, hi, Lani.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, yes, good to meet you all.
Thank you. Ya, Liam di sini sebagai Growth and Marketing Manager Asia dan Nick sebagai Enterprise Architecture. Beliau akan mengenalkan mengenai materi Abacus Avolution. Dapat dilihat di layar kaca Bapak Ibu. Terlampir adalah paparan setiap sesi nanti dalam webinar. Baik, yang pertama yaitu tadi jam 13.55 sampai dengan 14.00 mengenai persiapan dan pembukaan. Lalu ada 3 sesi yang akan kita kenalkan kepada Bapak Ibu. Yang pertama adalah jam 14.00 sampai dengan 14.10. Sesi pertama akan diisi oleh Bapak Fajar mengenai pengenalan company profile. Lalu yang kedua pada pukul 14.10 sampai dengan 14.30, sesi kedua pengenalan mengenai enterprise architecture. Yang ketiga pada pukul 14.30 sampai dengan 15.15, sesi ketiga pengenalan Abacus Avolution dan demo. Lalu yang terakhir pada pukul 15.15 sampai dengan 15.30 yaitu penutup. Sebagai informasi kepada Bapak dan Ibu, webinar ini ditayangkan melalui channel live YouTube kami. Jadi, apabila Bapak dan Ibu ingin melihat kembali tayangan, dapat mengunjungi di channel PT Smart Pro Solusi Asia. Lalu, apabila dari Bapak dan Ibu mengalami kendala pada Zoom atau suara tidak jelas, dapat menekan tombol raise hand pada layar, nanti dari tim kami akan membantunya. Baik, sebelum kita mulai diinformasikan kepada Bapak dan Ibu, apabila di setiap sesi akan ada pertanyaan, silahkan diketik pada kolom Q&A yang ada di bawah. Lion and Nick, for your information, we already prepare Q&A column. If in the audience has question, it will be written in Q&A column session.
Thank you, Lani.
Oke. Baik, langsung saja kita mulai untuk sesi pertama mengenai pengenalan company profile yang akan dibawakan oleh Bapak Fajar Hidayat. Waktu dan tempat saya persilahkan, Pak.
Baik, terima kasih Lani atas waktu dan kesempatannya. Selamat siang Bapak Ibu semua. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, saya Fajar Hidayat selaku CEO dari Smart Pro Solusi Asia akan menjelaskan, menerangkan, bercerita tentang Smart Pro sendiri. Smart Pro berdiri mulai tahun 2013, ya, dan kita adalah perusahaan yang berkonsentrasi memberikan solusi berupa konsultasi bidang manajemen informasi, IT, dan juga bisnis proses. Dari sejak awal keberdayaan kita mempunyai 3 prinsip utama yang selalu kita tekankan dalam setiap kali engagement kita kepada klien. Yang pertama adalah reliable, kedua trusted, yang artinya hasil kerja kita itu bisa diandalkan dan juga bisa dipercaya oleh klien semua. Dan yang ketiga, kita selalu membangun relasi jangka panjang, ya, build long-term relationship dengan para klien. Sehingga bisa dimaklumi ya, dan bisa itu terjelaskan dengan fakta bahwa sekitar 60-70% dari customer kita adalah repeat customer. Jadi customer yang sudah beberapa kali engage dengan kita, lebih dari sekali. Nah, apa saja yang di-provide oleh Smart Pro? Kita memprovide melalui 4 cara kita untuk mendeliver value kita kepada customer. Yang pertama adalah melalui consulting. Nah, apa saja yang bisa masuk dalam scope consulting kita? Yang pertama adalah enterprise architecture, ya, IT enterprise architecture. Kedua, IT service management. Ketiga adalah IT governance atau tata kelola IT. Keempat adalah business process management. Kelima adalah master plan IT atau IT strategic. Dan yang terakhir adalah IT security. Nah, cara lain kita dalam mendeliver value kepada customer adalah melalui tools yang kita punya, ya. Kita ada tools untuk enterprise architecture, yaitu Abacus, yang nanti akan dibawakan oleh tim internal kita maupun oleh tim dari Abacus, Liam dan Nick. Kedua adalah IT service management. Kita ada satu partnership dengan Smart Service Desk untuk service management. Cara kita atau jalan bagi kita untuk melakukan menambah value ke klien itu yang ketiga adalah melalui services. Kita ada managed service dan advisory yang kita lakukan baik secara monthly atau yearly kepada klien kita. Dan yang terakhir kita melakukan melalui training, mostly adalah in-house training kepada para kita, yaitu yang selama ini kita sudah pernah adalah untuk ITIL, untuk COVID-5 dan juga risk management serta untuk IT security. Siapa saja klien yang pernah engage dengan kita? Saya sebutkan adalah beberapa klien yang parsial, gitu ya. Yang pertama di sisi BUMN kita ada Adikarya, ada Biro Klasifikasi Indonesia, ada Icon Plus, kemudian ada Pertamina EP, Pertamina Lubricants, kemudian ada Antam, kemudian juga ada PAL Indonesia, kemudian Solusi Bank Indonesia, itu anak perusahaan dari Semen Indonesia, juga Pertamina Lubricants, serta Angkasa Pura I. Di sisi pemerintah maupun lembaga, kementerian maupun lembaga, kita ada PSRE, yaitu subsidiari dari PSSN sendiri, kemudian kita ada di Kementerian Pertahanan, kita ada di Polri juga, Kemenparekraf, dan yang terakhir kita juga ada di Bappenas. Kemudian untuk swasta, di sektor private, kita pernah di Astra, di BKR, di Toa Galva, juga di Fasri Utama Sakti. Itu dari beberapa pelayanan parsial kita yang seperti yang saya sebutkan tadi, 60-70% kita ada repeat customer. Nah, partnership kita dengan siapa aja? Saat ini kita punya 2 partnership, yaitu yang pertama kita dengan Avolution, yang punya produk Abacus yang merupakan leader dari Gartner Magic Quadrant. Juga dia adalah Abacus leader di Forrester Wave. Nanti akan disampaikan secara lebih detail oleh tim delivery. Yang kedua, kita juga ada Smart Service Desk, yaitu ITSM, IT Service Management untuk tools untuk IT Service Management. Jadi nanti kalau Bapak dan Ibu ada kebutuhan untuk tools IT Service Management, boleh juga dikontak pada tim kita. Nah, terima kasih. Demikian penjelasan singkat dari saya tentang Smart Pro Solusi Asia. Kantor kita ada di Mampang, dan kemudian kita juga bisa di reach melalui sosial media. Kita ada di Facebook, LinkedIn, dan juga di Instagram, atau bisa kontak ke sales kita seperti yang sudah disampaikan tadi, atau bisa chat melalui website kita www.smartprosolusi.com. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu atas waktunya. Terima kasih juga kepada Lani yang atas waktu yang diberikan. Saya kembalikan lagi kepada moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik, terima kasih kepada Pak Fajar untuk paparannya. Sudah sangat jelas ya Bapak Ibu. Ada beberapa services yang bisa kami delivery, dan apabila dari perusahaan Bapak dan Ibu ada kebutuhan terkait dengan apa yang telah dipaparkan tadi, dapat menghubungi kami melalui website www.smartprosolusi.com atau juga melalui menghubungi saya. Baik, sesi pertama sudah dijelaskan oleh Bapak Fajar Hidayat. Kita lanjut untuk sesi kedua mengenai apa sih sebenarnya enterprise arsitektur ini. Dan sesi ini akan disampaikan oleh Bapak Irfansyah. Waktu dan tempat saya persilahkan, Pak.
Oke, baik Ibu Lani, terima kasih untuk waktunya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian, yang mana pada hari ini dapat menghadiri webinar dengan tema Enterprise Architecture Tools with Abacus Avolution. Kita ucapkan juga kepada pihak PT Smart Pro Solusi Asia yang telah menyelenggarakan event webinar pada hari ini. Perkenalkan, saya Irfansyah sebagai senior konsultan di PT Smart Pro Solusi Asia, dan pada kesempatan kali ini saya menggantikan Bapak Argo Galih yang sedang berhalangan hadir. Dan materi pertama kita, saya akan memaparkan apa itu enterprise arsitektur. Bapak Ibu, perkembangan teknologi saat ini semakin pesat, di mana kita ketahui bahwa teknologi telah menjadi kebutuhan bagi sebuah organisasi yang harus terpenuhi. Tentunya hal ini akan berdampak pada persaingan bisnis yang tidak lagi bisa dihindarkan bagi para pelaku bisnis saat ini. Belum lagi kondisi pandemik yang sekarang ini melanda dunia, tak terkecuali dengan negara kita Indonesia. Dengan adanya kondisi seperti ini, tentu akan memaksa para pemilik bisnis untuk harus putar otak agar bisa bertahan hidup. Perusahaan juga akan dipaksa oleh kondisi saat ini untuk harus siap naik tingkat atau naik kelas, dan perusahaan juga akan dipaksa untuk mampu bertahan hidup dengan kebiasaan baru. Namun Bapak Ibu, apakah perusahaan kita sudah siap? Nah, pertanyaan ini yang harus dijawab oleh kita semua. Bagaimana untuk dapat mempersiapkan hal tersebut? Untuk dapat mempersiapkan hal tersebut, Bapak Ibu, tentunya sebuah organisasi lebih maju dan berkembang memerlukan sebuah dukungan yang tepat. Dan dalam hal dukungan yang saya maksud, ada 4 poin utama yang harus disiapkan. Yaitu 1, dibutuhkan SDM yang handal dan berkompeten di bidangnya. Kedua, dibutuhkan proses bisnis yang ideal dan mampu mengakomodir end-to-end proses dengan baik, sesuai dengan core bisnis dari organisasi tersebut. Yang ketiga, dibutuhkan infrastruktur TIK yang mendukung secara baik dan optimal. Dan keempat, diperlukan source capital sebagai modal investasi agar organisasi tersebut dapat menjalankan visi dan misinya dengan baik. Secara konseptual, untuk dapat menerapkan 4 poin utama yang saya maksud pada slide sebelumnya, kita dapat ilustrasikan seperti gambar pada slide ini. Di sini, saya coba membagi menjadi 3 level Bapak Ibu. Level 1 mengenai strategik, di mana dalam hal strategik, tentunya visi dan misi menjadi concern dari top manajemen. Dan hal ini tentunya akan menentukan arah sebuah organisasi dapat berjalan dengan baik, serta sesuai dengan cita-cita yang diharapkan oleh top manajemen. Pada level kedua mengenai operasional, SDM dan proses bisnis merupakan 2 hal yang menjadi satu kesatuan utuh, di mana kedua hal tersebut akan saling mengisi dan melengkapi, agar harapan dari visi dan misi yang diturunkan oleh top manajemen dapat terpenuhi dengan baik. Pada level ketiga, mengenai implementasi, tentunya kesiapan teknologi maupun source capital menjadi fondasi dasar yang harus dipersiapkan secara matang bagi sebuah organisasi, dan tentu agar semua yang direncanakan dapat terukur dengan tepat sasaran. Nah, Bapak Ibu, dari 3 level tersebut apabila terpenuhi, tentu kita masih akan bertanya kembali, bagaimana cara membangun itu semua? Jawabannya adalah enterprise arsitektur, atau biasa kita kenal dengan sebutan EA. Namun, sebelum jauh kita membahas mengenai EA, tentu kita harus memahami definisi dari enterprise arsitektur yang dimaksud. Secara definisi, enterprise arsitektur adalah cara pengorganisasian proses dan TIK yang distandarisasi dan diintegrasikan ke semua unit kerja guna mencapai visi dan misi organisasi. Seperti yang kita lihat bersama pada slide ini, ada proses bisnis, data, teknologi yang digunakan, serta orang dapat kita ibaratkan seperti puzzle atau Lego. Merupakan sebuah entitas yang terpisah, namun jika disatukan akan menjadi sebuah bangunan yang berdiri utuh dan kokoh. Secara konseptual, bentuk EA seperti dua kubus, di mana kubus pertama mengilustrasikan kondisi saat ini, dan kubus kedua mengilustrasikan kondisi masa depan. Dari masing-masing kubus memiliki domain yang sama, yakni domain strategik atau visi dan misi, domain bisnis, domain data, domain aplikasi, dan domain jaringan dan infrastruktur. Sehingga kelima domain ini akan bekerja secara horizontal. Selain kelima domain tersebut, masih ada domain keamanan dan domain SDM. Kedua domain ini akan bekerja secara vertikal. Nah, Bapak Ibu, jika kita melihat ketujuh domain dengan mekanisme cara kerja yang berbeda, tentu bisa dibayangkan cara kerjanya akan mirip seperti puzzle, Lego, atau permainan Rubik. Jadi dari hal tersebut, kita akan memiliki asumsi kembali apakah implementasi framework konseptual EA ini bisa dijalankan secara manual. Jawabnya bisa-bisa saja, namun secara praktek, kami tidak pernah mau merekomendasikan hal tersebut. Karena tingkat keakuratan dan fleksibilitas jika ada terjadi perubahan, baik itu secara TIK atau struktur organisasi, EA yang telah dibuat akan membutuhkan effort lebih dalam melakukan penyesuaian. Dengan kata lain, EA harus dibuat ulang kembali. EA juga memiliki konsep untuk dapat mengintegrasikan domain manajemen proyek, domain proses bisnis, domain manajemen data, domain manajemen software, domain layanan, dan domain monitoring and evaluation terhadap IT. Ya, bila secara konsep, bila EA diterapkan, tentunya akan dapat memenuhi diantaranya satu, sangat kompleks, namun dapat dipahami dalam waktu singkat. Kedua, mempunyai panduan praktis dan contoh kasus real yang komprehensif dengan menggunakan enterprise arsitektur yang terkonsep dengan baik. Yang ketiga, template dan notasi artifak diambil berdasarkan tugas dan fungsi organisasi, disertai verifikasi dan standarisasi. Yang keempat, metodologi dan artifak dapat terpetakan secara selaras. Yang kelima, mendukung seluruh dimensi dalam organisasi, baik itu strategi, governance, risiko, KPI, yang sangat terkait tentunya dengan proses bisnis. Jadi Bapak Ibu, bisa kita bayangkan bahwa pertumbuhan organisasi dan TIK seringkali sangat cepat dan berubah dinamis, namun tergantung kondisi. Dan ini artinya tidak dapat dilakukan secara manual terus-menerus. Agar EA dapat dilakukan secara sistematis, tentunya kita membutuhkan sebuah tools yang tepat. Ya, dalam hal ini, EA tools yang kami pilih dalam memenuhi enterprise arsitektur yang ideal adalah EA tools Abacus dari Avolution. Karena EA tools Abacus merupakan leading pada Gartner Magic Quadrant. Mungkin Bapak Ibu semua yang hadir di sini pernah mendengar istilah Gartner Magic Quadrant. Ya, istilah ini memang sudah banyak dikenal dalam bidang IT, dan pada sesi ini saya akan menjelaskan secara singkat apa yang dimaksud dengan Gartner Magic Quadrant. Gartner Magic Quadrant merupakan kuadran yang menunjukkan tren pasar, khususnya dalam bidang IT, dan dengan adanya kuadran ini, kita semua dapat mengetahui kondisi dan tren pasar IT yang sedang berlangsung. Gartner sendiri merupakan lembaga yang didirikan pada tahun 1979 di Stanford, USA, dengan tujuan sebagai lembaga yang memberikan informasi seputar perkembangan teknologi informasi terkait dengan pemain-pemain IT dari seluruh dunia. Dan kita bisa lihat bersama pada slide ini bahwa Gartner Magic Quadrant pada edisi bulan Oktober 2019 telah merilis siapa pemain yang sedang memimpin dalam industri IT. Ya, salah satunya adalah Avolution serta beberapa pemain IT kelas dunia lainnya. Penilaian lain mengenai EA Tools Abacus dari Avolution yaitu dari Forrester, di mana Forrester sebuah lembaga survei mengenai riset, dan dalam hasil penilaian tersebut ada poin-poin penting yang ingin kami sampaikan, yaitu satu, sebagai leader dalam pemodelan arsitektur, rearsitektur untuk transformasi. Kedua, menyediakan roadmap dengan Gantt chart interaktif. Ketiga, mengintegrasikan data yang komprehensif, termasuk Google Sheet, Excel, Visio, serta REST API. Keempat, mengkolaborasikan dan melaporkan ke seluruh organisasi dalam waktu real time. Kelima, dapat dengan mudah pada repositori bersama di berbagai lokasi dan zona waktu. Keenam, merancang algoritma tanpa kode. Dan ketujuh, membuat pemodelan hubungan dengan tampilan grafik. Jadi Bapak Ibu, tidak ragu lagi bagi kita bahwa tools Abacus dari Avolution merupakan tools yang tepat dan solusi terbaik bagi organisasi kita untuk saat ini dan masa akan datang. Dan tools Abacus juga merupakan tools yang tepat untuk dapat menerapkan enterprise arsitektur pada organisasi Bapak Ibu. Demikian paparan dari saya mengenai enterprise arsitektur. Apabila ada hal yang ingin ditanyakan, silakan Bapak Ibu tulis pada kolom Q&A yang telah disediakan. Dan topik selanjutnya mengenai bagaimana kemampuan atau fitur-fitur apa saja yang ada di tools Abacus akan dipaparkan oleh Avolution Team. Demikian dari saya. Terima kasih saya ucapkan atas perhatiannya. Saya kembalikan kepada moderator. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik, terima kasih kepada Bapak Irfan atas penjelasan yang sudah diberikan. Mengingatkan kembali kepada Bapak dan Ibu, apabila akan ada pertanyaan, silahkan diketik pada kolom Q&A yang untuk jawaban akan dibantu jawab oleh tim kami. Dan diinformasikan juga kepada Bapak dan Ibu, pada kolom chat terdapat link absensi, mohon kesediaan dari Bapak dan Ibu untuk mengisi form yang terdapat pada link tersebut, dan data yang telah masuk nantinya akan digunakan untuk menerbitkan e-certificate yang akan kami distribusikan melalui email yang tertera. Baik, sesi 2 telah dipaparkan, kita beranjak pada sesi ketiga, yaitu mengenai paparan terkait Abacus. Sebenarnya apa sih Abacus itu, Avolution itu? Oke, Liam, are you ready?
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
Please get started.
Excellent. Let me just share my screen here.
Okay.
Should be coming through now. Can you see that on your screen, Lani?
Okay. So
Yeah, I
clearly,
can see that, Ryan.
I can see.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Lani. And thank you very much for Jar and Irfan as well. Really good overview, of course, of Avolution and, of course, Smart Pro there, as well as enterprise architecture. So before we dive into a demonstration, I do want to just give a few more minutes just to speak about Avolution and, of course, Abacus, which is our product, and give you a slight overview of how we see the market and, of course, how we've worked with clients in the past. So I know Irfan already gave us a very good overview of Avolution, but just to touch on some of those points again, we've been in the enterprise architecture market for nearly 20 years now, leading the way in the tool vendor sector. We have 7 offices worldwide, of course, including in Singapore, where I'm currently calling from, as well as in London, where Nick is based today. We do have major offices in Sydney, Australia, in the US as well, and then other satellite offices in Dubai and Santiago in Chile, as well as Canada. As Irfan said, we are a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant and also the Forrester Wave, and we are a leading tool vendor by a number of different other independent tool reviews. We have clients in over 100 different countries now, of course, including Indonesia and across Southeast Asia, and we've worked with over 3,000 different companies. I'm sure you've already heard my name quite a few times now on this call today, but I'm Liam Ryan, and I'm the Growth and Marketing Manager for Asia for Avolution. I'm currently based in Singapore, and I've worked across our offices in London and in Sydney as well. I'm joined, of course, by Nick Stevenson-Steels.
Yeah, hi everyone. So as Liam says, I'm Nick Stevenson-Steels, one of the consultants here at Avolution Software. I do a lot of the training for Abacus to people such as yourselves, training you upon how to get your data in from your organization and back out to the organization so they can understand the enterprise architecture work that you guys do. I have worked previously in the UK government sector with Avolution, so I know what it's like to be on your side of the table learning about a brand new tool set in enterprise architecture. So looking forward to demonstrating a bit more of the functionality that we can provide to you.
Excellent, thanks Nick. And just to speak a bit more about, of course, our clients that we have worked with in particular, I want to touch briefly on our finance and government clients, of course. So in finance, we've worked with a wide variety of clients. And the way that we do this is by supporting, of course, their business missions, which I'll talk about in just a moment, but of course, all the frameworks that are applicable to their business and perhaps their different departments as well. So some of those include BIAN, or the Banking Industry Architecture Network Framework. So we certainly support BIAN up to the latest version. ACORD, TOGAF, I believe we're up to 9.2 with TOGAF 9.2, and as well as Archimate 3.1 now. So we've worked with quite a variety of different clients, and some of those are presented on our behalf as well. So we'll go through some of the learnings today. And of course, government as well. We do support a wide range of different governments, including all different levels. We've worked with central and federal governments, state governments, especially in the US and in Australia, various different city councils across Europe and as well as in APAC and the Americas. And of course, different government agencies and authorities and public sector architects. So of course, government organizations often have very specific requirements with regards to security and deployment. And this is one of the key benefits of Abacus, in that we can accommodate almost any different type of deployment, including completely cloud-based, completely on-premise, and hybrid deployments where we might host the application, but the data remains on site. So it can be fully secure and you can have the best of both worlds in that scenario. We do, of course, support a range of different frameworks for the government sector, including MODAF, DODAF, NATO, Defense Architecture Framework, Federal Enterprise Architecture Framework, and Archimate as well. And a range of new frameworks can easily be adapted and built within Abacus in just a few short hours too. So if a framework isn't currently in there, we can quickly put that together. And of course, we can adapt any of these frameworks and combine them to suit your particular enterprise architecture needs. This is just a brief snapshot, just to show you that we're not, of course, just on finance and government. We have worked with and, of course, take learnings from a variety of different organizations across all different sectors. You may recognize some of these names here. They certainly are home names or skyline names, as we like to say. But we've worked with quite a few different clients and learned quite a lot over the years about enterprise architecture around the globe. Now, before I hand over to Nick, I'm just going to touch very briefly on where Avolution sees the priorities and potential solutions for enterprise architectures, enterprise architects in 2020. We have done a lot of research in this particular field, and of course, we've delivered a lot of presentations as well. So I'll take you through just a couple of those slides that were pulled out from those early presentations and some of the key learnings that we were able to convey earlier this year as well. So this particular slide we put together in January, and looking at it, though to quote Mark Hamill, everything has changed and nothing has changed this year in particular. So most of these trends and those solutions that you'll see on the next slide will actually be accelerated by the current situation in which we find the world today. Of course, one of the key areas that many enterprise architects are looking at and many business managers are looking at the moment is cloud-based collaboration. So being able to deliver stable and consistent IT is one of the most recognized priorities for boards in 2020. As we like to say, it's cloudy with a chance of hybrid. So being able to not only leverage the infrastructure benefits from a cloud-based approach, but also being able to secure it is very critical, which brings us to the second point there, the EA and cybersecurity. So we've worked with some of the leading cybersecurity firms around the world, including Sophos, as well as others. And of course, the conversation around cybersecurity is at the forefront today for enterprise architecture as well. So we can certainly touch on how we can approach that particular area of business today. But it is certainly one of the key issues that boards are facing, as we see, of course, much greater demand for integration of applications, data, and management, not only across cloud providers, but across various locations as well. It stands to reason then, of course, that EA and data privacy is also a big issue as well. So I'm sure many of you will be familiar with terms such as GDPR, or perhaps California's CCPA and other various privacy-based legislation. But it's very crucial today and paramount that enterprise architects and businesses in a range of different countries are able to not only say that they can protect the data of their users and perhaps their consumers, but also to demonstrate that through various assets and visualizations, and of course the processes that they're using as well. Now, all of these things are underpinned, of course, by various tool supporting areas. So number one there, of course, the self-service EA IT, being able to set up an environment not only where users can consume data, but can also access it in their own time is very, very powerful. So this fits in with the strong push towards business managed IT. And that, of course, is collaboration across the business on IT and business strategy. As the demand for EA content and analysis grows, we've made great strides into providing the self-service EA environment and being able to really support the various analysis that our EAs and, of course, other users across the organization are doing. So it goes without saying that decision support analytics are very much fundamental to part of this, and we'll see some of those algorithms and ways that we support this particular area of business in just a few short moments, as well as, of course, managing complexity too. So managing complexity, of course, as Irfan mentioned earlier, and as Nick will show you in just a moment, is a core component, of course, to enterprise architecture, and is a key USP, of course, for enterprise architects, being able to sort out the spaghetti or the weave, as it were, of all the different systems, processes, people that are relying on those as well, and make sure that business leaders and people across the organization can make confident decisions about multiple moving parts. So the way that we at Avolution see being able to achieve these things is by exploring different areas of innovation, and we've built those into the tool with some of the most recent advancements in enterprise architecture. So number one, of course, being able to explore relationships with graph views, being able to look at the different connections between people, process, and technologies. It's a very powerful thing, and not only enables us to do different types of analysis, it provides a very convenient and easy way for users who might not be IT-centric to understand the architecture. Of course, as I mentioned before, being able to collaborate on data and roadmaps is hugely important, and encouraging co-ownership, so people working together, not just necessarily in the EA team, but across the organization, and starting conversations through chats and emails, of course, about the roadmaps and the dashboards that the architecture team is putting together. One of the largest benefits that has come out recently, of course, is machine learning, and Abacus Avolution has been a pioneer in this field in bringing that to the EA market. So machine learning in Abacus allows for more complete data. You have the ability to fill in the gaps very easily without too much manual labor, thanks to the algorithms and the calculations that are done in Abacus automatically. So you don't necessarily need to fill in all of the gaps to have a complete data set yourself. Abacus can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And this, of course, lends itself very well to the next point, making roadmaps more interactive. So roadmaps, of course, as we've touched on quite a bit today, are very crucial to enterprise architects and in delivering on any particular missions. We can make these very interactive and exploratory in Abacus, as Nick will certainly show you, and that can be done through various Gantt charts and, of course, through information which is updated regularly from across the enterprise. And then finally, of course, composing analytics to guide decisions. Getting these analytics just right is very much a critical aspect of enterprise architecture. Being able to decide on the KPIs and, of course, having the flexibility through the use of no-code algorithms in order to automate those calculations is hugely powerful to any enterprise. We'll hand over to Nick in just a short moment, but this has led us to one key area which we believe very much in at Avolution, and that's delivering on enterprise architecture missions. So each architecture scenario has its own business outcomes and metrics. Now these are common big ticket themes, as it were, which I'm sure many of you have been working on over your careers, or certainly this year. And they might include cloud migration, application portfolio management, process outsourcing or automation, and each of these has a particular set of drivers and an area of concern, which in turn dictate what we're going to model and how we're going to present that to our stakeholders. In the example of cloud migration, as you can see on the screen here, we might deploy an analysis algorithm to score applications for their suitability for cloud hosting, a structural algorithm to infer the target infrastructure architecture, the economic algorithm to analyze its costs, and data visualizations to present both the target architecture and the cost analysis. Now this, of course, is relatively new territory, not only for us, but for the EA field. We have worked on it with a variety of different clients already this year, and of course in recent times. But of course, we don't quite just yet have a do cloud button. So that's something we're certainly trying to reiterate here, that it still requires, of course, the work of the enterprise architecture team and business users to understand this analysis and to combine it to create their own insights. But we're certainly seeing an increasing demand from clients for algorithms to accelerate every stage in the enterprise architecture cycle. I'll hand over to Nick now, and Nick can take us through some of our understanding of enterprise architecture, of course, and the demonstration of Abacus.
That's great. Thank you, Liam. I will just start to share my screen. Liam, if you could let me know when this is coming through. So hopefully you can see this. Okay, so I'm just going to talk through initially a bit more detail around the different frameworks that we actually provide. So what we can see here, we've got many various frameworks available for you to use out of the box, some of which you will be very familiar with, some that are used globally around the world, and they're all pre-configured. They're within the Abacus toolsets, and they include the likes of, as has already been mentioned, the likes of TOGAF 9.2 and above. We've got Archimate as well, along with lots of other frameworks that you can see on the screen as well. So ITIL is one of them. SABSA is one that we're more recently using for security. And there's lots of business frameworks as well that you can actually use straight out of the box, start modeling your data in alignment with these to basically build out your architecture as you go. So this is all well and good in terms of having a preset architecture. That might be exactly what you're looking for. However, what you sometimes might find is that the straight out of the box framework doesn't quite meet your organizational needs. It's not quite right. You model things slightly differently, and that's okay, because your organization is going to be different to a competitor, to someone else's. You are different, and that is good. But what we enable you to do with Avolution's Abacus software is actually build your own framework. And in this, what you can see, I'm sharing this within part of the Abacus toolset, is the Avolution framework, because what we've actually done here is combined a few of some of the more popular versions of the frameworks, the likes of TOGAF. We've made some adaptations onto here to make it more business friendly. We're using the likes of BPMN, so that will suit your needs for the likes of process modeling your businesses. We're looking at the PEAF model, and this is taking the best of breeds. And I guess some other ones that you will probably want to use, especially in the government branches who are on the call today, are the likes of frameworks such as we've got MODAF and DODAF, which is the Ministry and Department of Defense frameworks in the UK and the US respectively, and there's also the FEAF framework as well. So all of them are aligned a bit more centrally to government needs. Now, one thing that you're probably looking at here, especially if you're a little bit newer to the enterprise architecture world, is there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of components, there's a lot of relational connections between all of these components. And one thing I will encourage you is don't be afraid of this, because what we can also see is we can start at a much lower level. So identify levels of where you want to record. So this is a very high level. We're looking at lesser amount of components and connections to help you build out a repository and to build out your enterprise architecture estate. So no matter where you're at, whether you're really mature in the enterprise architecture industry or just starting out and trying to get some perspective, don't be put off by thinking you need to have all of the data available to you from day one. That is not the case at all. You can start small and build out. So that is one thing that Abacus allows you to do. Let's hop back over on to here. And what I'm going to talk you through today is the Abacus toolset. So we actually have two parts to the Abacus tool. We have Abacus Enterprise, which is where you as collaborators and people who just want to consume the data can go in and see a more light view of the data. So that's where I'm going to start today. We're going to see how the hard work that you guys and your teams in the enterprise architecture field, what outputs you can get. And that's where I want to start first, so you can start to understand with Abacus, what can you give to your stakeholders? What can you give to your peers and your bosses and anyone who's concerned? What can you give them based from all of that hard work that you do every single day? Because that's the sticking point here. You do a lot of hard work, and this is done within Abacus Studio, and I will go into that a bit later on in the demonstration, but that's where the hard work really goes in. That is where you plug your data in. That's where you create the mappings, you construct your own meta model, and you get the data in there, and that's where you manage the data initially. But you want to get this out to the wider users. So let's see a few different scenarios on here. So I'm starting off back in Abacus Enterprise, which is what we can see here. If I just go into my welcome screen, these are enterprise dashboards. And my welcome screen is built on these individual boxes, or as we call, portlets. And now you can see I've got Twitter on here, I've got YouTube videos, so I can start building these out based on what I want my individual user or user group to see. There's a lot of times that from my own personal experience working with different businesses that basically throw all information at you at once, and it becomes overwhelming. You don't know where to look as an end user, and you ultimately go, no, that's too much. I don't really understand it. I'll say that I do just so I can get by, but that understanding, that clarity isn't quite there about your data. But the beauty of Abacus is that you can be very specific about your use cases, about what you want to see. So let's start off with one example, such as application rationalization. And what you can see here is I've got a few different charts on my screen. I'm going to go through a few examples of different scenarios so you can get a gist or just get an idea of what I'm what you're capable of doing. But all of this is based in Abacus. Lots of data here. You can see we've got lots of information shown there. At the moment, it doesn't tell me much. But what we can see from this particular area is I've got, if we look at this bottom left corner, over 1,000 applications in my enterprise architecture repository. And look at the sheer amount of data that I have available. And this is using different metrics, different KPIs, such as a business fit score, a criticality score. Now, Liam mentioned this earlier on. We have algorithms that can calculate these metrics automatically. So you can create a criteria that drives the scoring mechanism that is based from your data. So you get the data from wherever it lives in the organization, you put it into Abacus, and you let the tool do the work for you to say, well, it uses a lot of processes, it has a lot of individual users, therefore it's a good business fit. Whereas if you have less items connected and not many people using it, it will have a lower score. But you can see here we've got number of users, criticality scores, we've got financial information, you can have start dates and end dates. And what I can also see is different departments, different processes of other components within my repository that are connected to this. Now, it's worth pointing out here that I might look at this particular, the name of the application is IVR, and I'm seeing here that it's owned by the department Brazil. Another great thing about this isn't just an area for you to see the data. You can start assigning permissions to different users so they can go in, see their own individual dashboard and edit their data accordingly. So here, for example, I'm seeing Brazil. Me as the manager of IVR, I probably know that actually that isn't correct. I can go into here and I can change this. So actually it isn't Brazil at all. I know I'm here based in the UK, so I know it's this particular UK department that manages that. I can change that connection, and there we go. We can see that that updates automatically, and that is available for everyone else to use. Now, I mentioned that we have over 1,000 items in this catalog, which is showing all of my information. And at the moment, we have a lot of overwhelming data on here. Not that useful, but from an application rationalization point of view, I might be interested in seeing, well, I want to see all of my applications that have a high criticality value. So let's find them. You can see here, I've got level 5, 200 of them. I click on that, and it will filter down all of this here. So what you can see is all of my charts have updated, and I'm down to my 2 results here. And hopefully you get the idea now. Okay, let's look at the ones that have a status that they're due to be retired. I've got 54. Let's select those. And now I'm interested in the ones that are at the end of their lifespan. I'm now down to 37 items from an original 1,078. What I can start to see here is that this particular application, it's got a rather boring name, but I can see when I hover over it, it's worth $650,000. I can click into this, and it gives me all of the details that I need to see from this, based from who the department owner is, what processes it uses, and to see any gaps that are missing. And all of these are filters, so I can quite easily undo this and restore my original view and look into my data for another criteria. Now, this is one method of doing this, but you might say, well, actually, I don't want people to have all this insight on here. I just want people to edit their data. We don't need this to be as complex. So what I'm going to do is navigate to this applications register. And what this will do, this is all online. What we can actually see here is the fact that it's live and collaborative, because what you might be able to see, obviously I'm in here, I can edit items. I can see Liam is also in this dashboard as well. I can see that he's viewing the data, and as you can see at the same time, Liam is clicking around and we can see who else is working in that same environment. It allows us to be collaborative, lets us work together more efficiently. Now, we've mentioned machine learning. So what we mean by that is anytime you import data, we have basically an algorithm or some more complex workings that I'm not qualified to tell you about that tell us and predict what values we're missing. So I can see, for example, here, if I hover over here, it's saying in my supplier, XYZ is 65% likely to be the provider of here. And that's based on all of the other data that we have. What I can also see is my existing data. So my stage here, it's marked as development, but it's saying, well, based on the data that I have, it should be marked as in production, and it's 98.95% sure. So something somewhere has gone wrong. Now I'm able to change this myself to production, make it as I want to. But what I then might want to do is go and speak to the application manager and let them know what I've done. So what I can do is find the application manager, and when I click on that, it's allowing me to open it in my instant messenger environment. In this instance, I'm using Microsoft Teams. I can open that, and it puts me in a place where I can start typing a message straight away. And again, we're looking at working together. We don't want anyone to be on their own working and just get lost in all of the data that is associated with enterprise architecture. So that's another way of keeping in touch with your team and potentially external teams that you need to get more information from. So let's just go through a few other dashboards just so you can get an idea of some more of the functionality and also what else you're able to see. So this is from an application perspective. I'm going to move on now if it refreshes. There we go. So this is now looking at the information dashboard. So I'm looking at the size of my data entities, the total cost of my databases. And all of this, again, can be plugged in automatically. We've got these diagrams that can be produced that I'm able to maximize and see the different technical details associated with data entities. So I'm seeing the fields that they use and what subjects they are a part of. So you can start seeing data from a different stakeholder's perspective. Me as an application manager, I might not be interested in this. So I can have my permission set so I can not see any of this. Another example would be, we've got this option here as a finance manager role. And again, we've got some other visualizations. We've got some tree maps on here that I can drill down and start to see different capabilities. I'll look at these visualizations in more detail as we go on. I've got the sunburst that I can drill through, and it lets me see the different departments that are within it, and it lets me filter out anything that isn't related. This particular view is showing the various connections. So I'm looking here from a finance manager perspective in terms of what is connected to each other. So SQL Server is looking at where the cost is attributed. So that SQL Server is taking money from the Windows platform, or it's being costed money from two different areas here. One method of looking at it just to see what costs are being spent and where they are being spent from. So another probably more detailed view is we've looked at a more technical side of things, so the information, the application, and a little bit from the financial perspective. But let's have a look at it from a business capability view. Now we have some diagrams here, so there's a few different visualizations that I want to point out here. We've got a business capability map, which is relatively standard. What we can see here is capabilities in different areas of our organization, and these are all colored based on a property. Now, properties are something that we saw on the catalogs. Each column that we saw had a property is a metric, it's a KPI, it's pieces of information against the data that you have. And that can drive these colorations. So we have got here some form of a red, amber, green status. And I know here this is looking at our recommendation value. And we'll come on to how this automatically updates your visualizations a little bit later on. But what I can see here is I've got this overall view. What you can then do is drill down into the underlying process. So we've gone from a technical aspect now over into this business driven. We're looking at a capability that goes into its process. And this is using that BPMN notation, so the business process modeling notation. And we have start events, we have end events, and we have the different sequence flows in between with decision gateways. So it's another method of modeling lower down at a more granular, detailed level within your organization. I've mentioned these tree maps, and what we can see here is the same principle as the diagram that I showed previously. So if I go back to my capability map, it's exactly the same. The only difference is when I zoom in, is these are sized based again on properties. So I can see this management and support processes group is valued at $3.5 billion, whereas the operating processes is at $1.5 billion. What we can do here is actually drill down and start to see the various levels underneath this. So I can see my various capabilities now. Each one of those is sized based on its value. Again, you can see that value box when I hover over each item. I can drill down and see the processes that build up this capability. Now, this will work in the same way for any component that you have within Abacus based on its data structure. And finally, what we can do is drill down once more, and we can see the services and the applications that actually underpin and are physically connected to the process. These are all colored based on another property. So again, the recommendation. So you can see when I hover over this, any that are red are marked to be retired or eliminated, whereas my green ones are there to be retained and invested. So I'm providing detail to that stakeholder about what these items are, rather than just giving a name of a component. And what you can see is all of these actually filter down into my other portlets. I can remove that and I will bring everything back. Graph view is something that is relatively new to Abacus. And let me just zoom in on this. So what we do here is this is a method of seeing our direct impacts really quickly to see if we choose to change something. And in this instance, what we are doing is looking at it from a capability perspective still. So I can drill into this. This is all live and it's connected with the repository that refreshes every 5 minutes. So I can see management and support. I have all of these capabilities, and me now as a capability manager, I know this particular one. So, well, I'm making changes to this. Who am I going to be impacting? I click on this and I can see straight away, wow, I've got a lot of impact from my capability because I've got these 4 projects that are using it. I've got lots of processes, and it's also impacting lots of goals for my organization. So I get that very high level view straight away. It's like, wow, I'm making changes. I need to get in touch with people and let them know what is changing. And we can start expanding this more and more, zooming in and out. I can see this one project is impacting risks, it's impacting departments. So I can start to see the wider impact of the changes that I previously probably couldn't see. So the next thing that I want to show is more around the different states of the life cycle stage. So if I go into this application rationalization strategy, we've talked about road mapping, and there's a couple of different meanings when we talk about road mapping, because what we're looking at is different points in time. Now, in this particular model, we're looking again at our capabilities, drilling down through to our processes. But what we're looking at here is items with their own dates. When are things being retired or stopped being used? And what we can do, this again is all updated automatically. If you change some data somewhere, these visualizations will change automatically, saving you an absolute mammoth amount of time. But I can drill into these and I can see my capabilities here. And I can also see that it's got a date between September and July, September 99 and July 2030. So let's drill into this one. I can see all of the processes within that, but most importantly, what I can then see is within here, if I drill into this particular one, I can see all of the applications that underpin this process. So I know that my process is probably running until January 2017. That's when it's valid until. But let's say if we were in 2017, or let's have a look at one that's still working up until this very day. I've got a lot of data in here, as you can see, but I can drill down yet again. This is supposed to be running until 2030, but what I can see is I've got lots of applications now that have these different stages. So start evaluation date and started development date, these different colors, that's what they're defining. But lots of these applications are ending or due to go into their end of life before the end of my process. So me, again, as in this instance, as a process manager, I'd be looking to say, well, what are we doing here? Are we renewing this project? Can we extend the life of it, or do we need to find a replacement? So it starts to build out more of a scenario around what you're building out. Now, the last thing I'm going to show on Abacus Enterprise is, again, it's road mapping, but from a different point of view, because what you might want to do is look at two different states of your architecture. Let me just remove my filter. And when we talk about different states, this could be you generate detailed views of how your enterprise architecture estate looks in the current day. So your current state scenario. Now, you might also want to see, well, we're looking at implementing a project. We're making changes to this project, and these are the changes that are planned. What does that look like? What is the direct comparison? And that's what we're seeing here. We're looking at our current application state against what it looks like after we have completed the application rationalization project. So once that's been completed, I can see this overview. It's costing me $6 million less. And there's different costing scenarios that we look at. We can see that the unavailability has improved. It's got more reliable. We have less components to manage, and it's just giving you that direct comparison about what you're actually looking at. So that is Abacus Enterprise. Gone through a few different scenarios there. I am just going to go back onto my slides, because what I want to show you here is now what we've done is we've looked at Enterprise. We're now going to go into Abacus Studio, where this is built. So you can see the back end, you can see basically the root of the tool where you build all of this information initially out. This is where you create that structure. Remember, you create your meta models here, you build the properties based on your needs. So what I'm going to show now is Abacus Studio, if it helps if I go onto that here. And what we can see here is Abacus Studio. It's not quite as flashy, but it's where you build everything out. This is the heart and soul of Abacus. This is where you get that data in. You can see I have that production state there. This is where my data lives. There's my project. I've created a copy and made changes. And the main thing I want to look at in here before I move on is the fact that we have various diagrams in here that I want to show you. So you may well have remembered the business capability map that I showed earlier on within Abacus Enterprise. Now, what we can see here, that this is where this was initially created, and it's exactly the same principle as we had there. So we've created the diagram within Abacus Studio, and soon what you'll be able to do is edit these diagrams within Abacus Enterprise. So again, we're promoting that collaboration environment. But one thing I did say is that these items, you can see that they're colored based on a certain property. And if I go into my properties window, see if I click on one of these here, this is a process. But what I know is I've got all of these many properties associated to that. We'll talk about financial information, we have availability, reliability, and we've also got this status. Now this status is driving this coloration. What I can do as a user, if I change this, I say, well, actually, this is wrong. I change that to, we're going to retire this. And you'll see automatically that color changes. Where the value comes from this is that your diagrams, they're not just visualizations, it's actual data. So if you change your data in a catalog or on a dashboard, wherever you change your data, it's going to feed through into the visualizations. So you can basically focus your work on making sure your data is up to date and valid, rather than thinking, well, I've made lots of data changes, now I have to spend a week updating all of my process maps, updating the colors on this, because your time is more valuable than just creating diagrams and making sure things are right. Let the data make those changes for you so you can focus on getting those actionable insights to your stakeholders. I'm going to just show one more diagram on here, which is a little bit more on the technical side of things. So let's have a look at our application interface diagram, and it's a similar perspective, but what you can start to see on here is, again, I've got lots of different details on here. If I zoom in, this is an application, and I can see that from here. But what I can also see is I'm looking at the attached platform services in this bottom corner. I'm seeing these different colored markers which are representing different metrics. So I can see in this green circle here, this has been approved, whereas IVR has not been, it's been denied. I can see here that it's criticality level 5. I can change the data on here to a 3 because I've said the website actually not as critical as we first thought. I change that and it updates the visualization, but in turn updates the data as well within my data catalog. All of this gets condensed together again, so any other viewer that you have in Abacus Studio or Enterprise will get to see your updates live when you save that into the repository. So it's all intricately and closely linked together. Something that is also worth pointing out on here is, let me just move this out of the way. You can actually create the diagrams. I know I've shown you a lot of pre-configured items here, but what you can also do is basically create data yourself by dragging and dropping as you would in the likes of Microsoft Visio or other modeling tools. I drag this on, and if I wanted to add in an application, you can see it's actually searching my repository now. So if I wanted to add Abacus in, it's showing that I've already got it on there. So it's not going to let me add duplicated data. However, if I do want to add new data, so let's add in Nick's new app, that's not there. That's not in my repository. So I'm basically being told here, this is brand new data. I can add that into here. And this now has its own default data settings. So you can see here, it's automatically set to pending approval. All these business fit, technical fit, and support. When the algorithms that we mentioned, they run in the background on saving, all of these are going to get populated based on me creating connections. I can connect to that as I have done there. You can see I can move all of these around. So you can create data from creating visualizations. You can edit your visualizations by creating data. So you can see how that all aligns together. Now, that's a high level view of Abacus Studio, but all of that is built in here. But one thing I do want to look at before I wrap up with you guys today is we've mentioned around catalogs, and we're looking at integrations and what we can do. So this here is a catalog as you've seen in Enterprise already. This data typically comes from several sources, and the two that we most commonly see are Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. So these are just spreadsheets that you can import. And what you can see, that's what I've got here. I've got export to Microsoft Excel. I can get my data from the original source and then import that very quickly. It's just a matter of clicking another button and importing from my Microsoft Excel file. And it's the same here with Google Sheets. We have integrations with the likes of, if I see here, we've got SharePoint, Teknologi, and ServiceNow. So if you use any CMDBs, that you have any technical data that you need to bring in and you want to use, you are able to do that. And the final thing that I want to show in here is the fact that, if I just put this on my full screen again, is that you can integrate with the likes of Microsoft Visio. So again, as I have mentioned already, your diagrams are data. They're not just diagrams. They are actual data that sits and lives within your repository. So what you do, you get your Visio diagram and you import that as a visualization, but also as data. That will sit in your repository. That will have the views that you want to see and what you want to show your stakeholders. And what that ultimately brings us to is that Abacus, both Studio and Enterprise, they combine together to make what we see today, which is an enterprise architecture tool that is data-driven and diagram-driven. The data-driven allows your technical teams to get all their intricacies, little bits of data together and make that accurate. Your modelers, the likes of business process modelers, data modelers, what they can do is reuse what they have in the repository to create their visualizations. And when they spot or identify any gaps in that data, they essentially draw that data out. So you've got the best of both worlds. And these two, data-driven and modeling-driven approaches, bring it together to make it nice and business friendly. And that's where you see the different views in Enterprise based on the differing user profiles. Now, the last thing that I'll mention is on Abacus Enterprise, all your data is nice and secure because we can use single sign-on. So this is using your in-house security to provision you a user role. So you have access to the data that concerns you or concerns the team that you want to push data out to. So you can be rest assured that your data is safe and secure on that platform, and only the correct eyes will see the data that is intended for them. That's all from me. I will pass over on to Ryan, but again, thank you for listening to my demonstration today.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you everyone for listening to the demonstration. Of course, as you can see on screen, if you would like some further information, please do feel free to visit our YouTube channel or download a free trial from our website. There was a couple of questions, I think, Nick, so I'll pass back over to Lani. If Lani, you can ask those to Nick, and we'll answer some of those as we can.
Okay, thank you, Liam. Nick, there is any question for Ira from Ira Kurniawati. For the question is, what is the Abacus application can be integrated with other monitoring applications? For example, application related to monitoring the capacity of an existing infrastructure resource in organization, and based on experience, how long to implement?
So, sorry, Lani, you literally broke up a little bit partway through there. I missed the key part of that question. Could you repeat that, please?
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. What is the Abacus application can be integrated with other monitoring application? For example, application related to monitoring the capacity of an existing infrastructure resource and the organization, and based on experience, how long to implement it?
Okay, so that sounds like we're talking about integrations to potentially other software. So if we're looking to integrate, we actually have a few out-of-the-box integrations that can link to the likes of ServiceNow, Teknologi, and those are pretty much instant connections. We just have to have the right credentials to be able to connect Abacus to those environments. If you have something that we haven't previously connected with, Abacus does have a REST API, which means as long as any other service that you use that you want to connect to has an open API, you can actually connect Abacus to that to bring that application data in or out, depending on what you're looking to do. From my experience in terms of how long that takes, honestly, it depends on the tool that you're wanting to do and how easy that you can get the credentials. If you have these credentials and have everything in place, I'd say probably no more than a day. But again, it's I can't really be totally accurate there because it's on a case-by-case basis. Hope that answers that. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I will speak on bahasa ya.
Okay.
Bu Ira, apakah sudah menjawab? Atau ada yang ingin ditanyakan kembali? Baik, apabila tidak, apakah masih ada yang ingin ditanyakan kembali terkait dengan Abacus? Okay. So, from Ira, so clearly, thanks for the answer, Nick.
No problem. Thank you.
Oke, Bapak Ibu, apakah ada yang ingin ditanyakan kembali terkait dengan Abacus atau terkait dengan paparan dari sesi pertama, sesi kedua?
Sorry, is there any more questions? I can't actually hear anything at the moment from my side, so apologies if I'm interrupting anyone.
Okay, there is any question for Agus Hermanto? Is it any available for version for student?
So was that an application for students?
Yeah.
I guess just to follow up on that, in terms of students, are we looking at is there use on how to teach this tool, or specifically for actual I don't know, university students? Is that the kind of thing that we're looking for here? I'm not sure on the question.
Can probably answer a bit more there. So if they are after a student version, Avolution does partner with various universities around the world, and we're happy to support students enterprise architecture, especially in going through various university degrees. But if you do want to try Abacus, it's available to anyone just via our website. So you're more than welcome to download a 30-day free trial, and you'll be able to use the majority of the features there.
That's great. Thank you, Ryan. Is there any other questions that anyone would like answering?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Liam and Nick, for the answer.
No problem.
Okay, there is one question again from Adi Nugroho. I'm asking about the lesson for organization to implement Abacus. Is it annually or perpetually?
Sure, I can take that one, Nick. So we do have two options available. We do provide a perpetual license for any on-premise users. But if you're looking to have Abacus hosted, we do have a subscription service which is available. The subscription is also available for clients looking to install on-premise though as well. So we have the Abacus available both annually and as a perpetual purchase. If the client does wish to purchase a perpetual license, then there's an annual support and maintenance fee.
Okay, thank you, Liam. So I will speak in bahasa. Pak Adi Nugroho, apakah sudah jelas atau ada yang ingin ditanyakan kembali? Baik, terima kasih Pak Adi. Untuk yang lain, Bapak Ibu, apakah ada pertanyaan lagi? Baik, Thank you, Liam and Nick, for your presentation and answer for question from all attendants.
No problem at all. Thank you all for joining.
Okay, I will speak in bahasa again.
No problem.
Baik, dikarenakan waktu yang sudah habis, lalu apabila ada pertanyaan dari Bapak dan Ibu yang belum kami jawab, akan kami kirimkan melalui email, atau pertanyaan yang belum tersampaikan dapat mengirimkan melalui email kami. Atau apabila berkenan, kami bersedia untuk melakukan kunjungan ke perusahaan Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Baik, kita sudah berada pada akhir acara. Terima kasih atas waktu yang sudah disediakan untuk event ini. Semoga apa yang kami paparkan pada event hari ini dapat bermanfaat untuk kita semua. Sebelum Bapak dan Ibu mengakhiri webinar ini, mohon kesediaannya untuk mengisi polling yang berada pada layar Bapak dan Ibu. Tentunya polling ini sangat berguna untuk kami semua. Dan terima kasih atas partisipasinya kepada Bapak dan Ibu yang telah mengikuti event webinar ini. Sampai bertemu di webinar selanjutnya. Sehat selalu dan selamat sore semuanya. Thank you for Abacus team, Liam and Nick, for the present. We already enough.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, see ya.
Bye. Bye all.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Nick.